Hello, hello. This is Julie Santiago here, and I am with Megan. Megan, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me.
We were just chatting, of course, like we do before I hit the record button, and we were looking at a couple different things. You graduated from the program 3 months ago, almost to the day,
Yep.
and you applied 3 months before that, so 6 months ago today. So we just are going to talk about this incredible journey that you've been on over the past 6 months. And there's some pretty awesome shifts that have happened both
Definitely.
externally and internally. So I want to thank you for being here and sharing your journey and your wisdom with all of the other women. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we started, I was just asking you about your intention before we started this call, and you were like, "Well, I usually don't share so much about myself. This is new." And that's, I can celebrate that. Like this would be outside of your comfort zone in the past. But I want to just acknowledge that this isn't like something you would normally do, but you said you were doing it if there were one other woman who could be impacted by your story. And I just wonder, do you want to just say anything about that? Like what's your intention for being here, and why are you doing this, even though normally you're more of an introvert and don't share publicly like this?
No, definitely. I think that's been part of the journey, just being more comfortable with vulnerability and knowing that if I'm not vulnerable, I'm missing out on so many parts of life. So definitely trying to definitely outside my comfort zone. But also, yeah, if there's anyone who's in a similar situation that I was in or feels connected to my story, and if I could help them, that would be amazing.
Well, thank you, because I know how powerful your story is. And I know there are going to be women out there who watch it, who listen to it, who will resonate. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're going to talk about where you were. But before we go there, I would love to actually have you just share, I don't know, the first three words that come to your mind. If you were to just scan your life and describe how life feels for you now on the other side of this program, I wonder if you could just share with us, like, if it's three adjectives or even like a couple of sentences, whatever feels right to you, about where you are right now on the other end of doing this work.
Definitely, I would say more peaceful, um, more connection, um, and just more myself.
Mm-hmm. I like that last one a lot. I like all of them, of course. So more peaceful, more connection. And you say more connection. Is that with anybody in particular?
With my family, with my husband, my daughters, I think I was moving so quickly and just like pushing through life um, that I wasn't just being with them at all. And now there's a lot more time, like just playing at playgrounds and just doing the fun stuff in life and more playful, and I can actually be present with them.
Mm.
Not all
So
the time, but a lot. Yeah.
as much as humanly possible with two little girls.
Yes.
How will you tell us how old they are? Tell everybody so they know.
Definitely. Addie is just turned 3.5, and Beckett turned 1 in May.
Yeah. So you got little kiddos. And when you
Definitely.
joined the program, what was it like with them? So let's take these three things, like peaceful, connection, and more yourself. And let's look at what each one was before. So what was your connection like with them before? Um, and then we can even look at your partner if we want to. But what was your connection like with your family before?
So I mean, I had definitely good moments, right? I loved being a mom, but I just had so much pressure at work and was trying to do so many things. It was almost like checking a box, like, oh, did we play today? Check. And then moving forward. So it's not even maybe that we're doing different things, it's just the intention is so much different now. And I just feel more connected with them. And I think they do too, right? I think, and like certain things, just like bedtime was like brutal. Just it was just really, really hard. And it almost felt like more of a burden. And now, not to say like tantrums are wonderful, but I now see that they're there to teach me something, whether it's about myself or about the girls. And just, I just pause more. And we just have way more fun.
So more pausing, more fun. And I feel like if other moms are listening to this right now and they're like, wait a second, did you just say you view tantrums as your teacher? And I think
Not every day.
not every day, okay, but on the days where you're maybe feeling more centered and
Yes.
peaceful, how do you roll? So it's not easy, Megan. I mean, we know that motherhood's not easy. You work full time, which of course we'll talk about too, and but how have you learned? What did you learn that helped you roll with life more in this way? How'd you make that shift?
Definitely. So I mean, with your teachings, definitely, and your coaching, I think the very first thing was there was one, it was early in the program where I was like super stressed out and just felt like Addie was just turning 3 and asserting her independent spirit. And like sometimes the tantrums would trigger me and I would make them worse instead of better. And you had said, um, and we had talked about my younger daughter being like so chill and just in flow of life. And you're like, what if when Addie is having a tantrum, you just think, what would Beckett do? And I was like, I don't know. But I did that and like Beckett just laughs and just lets the feelings just totally flow through, right? Like, and then Addie moves on. So I think I try to remember that as much as possible. And I also think I was trying to be a parent in the way that I thought I was supposed to be. And especially like as Addie got older, I felt like, well, like, what if she never like learns like appropriate behavior or whatever? And those things get in your head, like from a cultural perspective. But I think over time I learned to just let it go. Like again, sometimes I still, right, there's still cultural components, but I think more and more I'm just letting myself be the mom that I feel true to be.
Mm. I'm so glad you said that because it made me remember some of the work that we did on trusting yourself in the program. And so when you think about when you came in, and we're going to look at your application in a second just to see where you were 6 months ago. But what would you say your relationship was like with trust? Like, did you trust yourself? Were you trusting of yourself when you came in?
Not at all. No, I thought I basically had, like, if you looked at my life, like from the outside, I had basically everything I wanted, or had at one time wanted, but on the inside, I had lost like total trust in myself. I didn't like even really think about intuition all that much. Um, and I think I just felt like I was failing at everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So like loud inner critic voice was going on. Um, and not trusting yourself, no idea what intuition was. And through the course of our journey together, and I'm wondering, I'm asking you this just like if you were to like try to pass a message along to the women who may or may not ever be a part of, to do the work with us, what is one thing that you learned or did in order to deepen that relationship with yourself, with your intuition? Is there anything you can name?
Um, I think I just sort of surrendered in a way, just and stopped trying to prove myself eventually. Um, but those are sort of the two biggest things. And I stopped like thinking how I should do life and just let it be like through a lot of the program, like a lot of the program.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Well, what you said stands out so much because insecurity, like our insecurity and our lack of trust in ourselves, is often what leads us to overcompensate and control,
yeah,
right? And so there was healing that happened for you inside of the program of, well, what if I stop? What if I don't have to prove myself anymore?
definitely.
Then what happens? Then what
Then your
happens? Yeah.
definitely then your whole life changes. Yep.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that for you. Well, this is maybe an obvious question, but but I want you to tell everybody, would you say that you had been trying to prove yourself in some way for most of your life?
Definitely. I don't think I realized it, right? I mean, in some ways, definitely, but then other ways came up that I would have never really understood that's what I was doing. But yeah,
So
definitely.
tell us what it did look like for you, especially for women who may not know that, because I didn't know that's what I was doing when I was, working on Wall Street and making, being this organization and making this money. I didn't realize that my achievement was coming from a place of insecurity in some way and
Yep.
needing to prove myself. So for you, what did that look like in your life? How did needing to prove yourself show up?
What popped into my head was in 10th grade, I played 3 seasons of sports and joined 8 different clubs. So participated in 8 clubs because I was really concerned about my application for colleges in 3 years. And I wanted to be really well-rounded while also having a really great GPA. And so that was one example. And then when I decided to go to grad school, I remember I sometimes would sleep in my car because I worked like not entirely full time, but like 30 hours a week. I went to grad school full time and then I did an internship. So I would sometimes bartend till like 11 or 12. And then I had to be pretty far away in the city where I live like by 5 a.m. So, yep. And I thought that, yeah, that was normal.
So yeah, okay, great. So we
So
have this
those are 2 examples.
right?
Yep.
Two great examples of the way that proving yourself or overachieving, right,
Yep.
looked. And then tell us about your career. So we haven't even talked about that yet. So just will you give everybody a general idea of the work you do first?
Definitely. Yep. So I work in HR. I worked in HR for like the past 7 years or so as a business partner. And so a lot of my job is just supporting different leaders within organizations and doing everything like full employee life cycle. Basically, like I listen to people's problems a lot and try to problem solve. Is basically what I currently do.
Yes. And when you came to us, so this feels like a great like flashback to again where you were before. Let's take a look at your application from
Okay.
6 months ago, almost to the day. Um, when I asked you what you were most struggling with, right? And this is specifically around career, right? Because we work with women who feel like they come to us because they're burnt out, they're at the end of their rope. Some people really like the industries that they're in. Some people
Yep.
like the jobs they have. Some people don't, right? But so women come to us when they're like, this is not sustainable. There's got to be something more. There's got to be another way to live and to work.
Mm-hmm.
So, Megan, what you said was, I'm working too much and too hard. I really like parts of my job, but it's consuming too much of my life. I feel overwhelmed and unsure of what change I want to make. And because I'm the primary breadwinner of my family, I feel like my options are limited. Now, I want to stop there. We're going to go back and look at some other really amazing things that you said in that application. But I want to stop there because I know that really resonates with a lot of women. Just like either I'm the breadwinner or I make a lot of money and I don't want to walk away from it. I feel overwhelmed. I'm working too hard, but I don't even know what else I
Mm-hmm.
could do. And so, Megan, you came to us and you were commuting an hour and a half a day, or
It was 3 hours a day, but I worked from home 2 days.
okay.
Yep.
You had two children under the age of 3 at the time.
Yep.
Um, you were commuting a round trip 3 hours, 3 days a week, and then a couple of days a week you were staying home. And you were really at the end of your rope, right?
Yep.
And so I know you have a new job now, but that actually didn't happen until it started in the program, but it
Yep.
actually finished after you graduated from the program. So what I want to talk about, because sometimes the answer is to leave the job and sometimes it's not, right? And
Right.
I'm not teaching you how to quit your job. That's not the
No,
work we do.
definitely not.
Right?
Nope.
And so what is it, Megan, that you feel like you did learn? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is it about the work we did that allowed you to open up to this job that is now, get this everybody, how far away from your house?
5 minutes and 33 seconds.
Exactly. So we have amazingly decreased your commute by 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yes.
So more time with your kids, you're working less than 40 hours a week, you're making just about the same amount of money. So I really want you to share whatever comes to your heart, because this isn't like a linear thing. You do X and then you do Y and you follow this exact system, and then you're going to get the dream, whether that's the new job or the raise or whatever it is. But we healed your burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And we did so much more. But what is it that we did that you think contributed to this new life that is so much more in alignment with your deep, true priorities, which are family and fun and connection and all of that?
I think when I joined the program, I thought like there was just like something wrong with me, or I was doing something wrong to not be able to keep up with everything that I was doing. So I think just realizing that that was unsustainable for anyone really was like the first step in the shift. And then I also think a huge part of it was that I always felt like I was supposed to be doing something to help others or to contribute. And I thought that looked a certain way. And I think you helped me see that just your presence anywhere can often be a gift and can be transformational. And that sometimes doing what you think you need to do doesn't look exactly the way that you thought it did. So just being open to that, I think, was huge.
I love that. And I think that's very confusing when you're in it, right? So,
Yes.
right? Like if I had said all those things to you 6 months ago, what do you think you would have thought?
I wouldn't probably have believed you, or I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have trusted myself to see any like future where that was possible.
Yeah. And one of the things that we did, and it's different for every woman, but I remember one of the things that we worked on so much in your program was giving you permission to let your life be easy
Yes.
and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's who you are, right? I mean, anybody
Yep.
who's watching this video can see that in your smile, right? It's like, but there was a story that you had, and you may remember it, that like work was what?
Had to be hard.
Work had to be hard. Right. And so when we change those stories, guess what happens? You change your whole life, right? You change your whole reality. But so long as you believed the story that work was hard and that you weren't contributing enough in some way, because that was another story you had, that you needed to
Yep.
be more, doing more, giving more. And when we change those stories, people are so surprised when they go through this program that jobs just pop up out of thin air, or they just get promotions out of thin air, or they get transfer requests out of thin. I mean, this happens time and time again, and the story is different for different women. And it seems weird and magical and unexplainable, right? But
Definitely.
what happens is we shift you so much on the inside. And I get it. It may seem a little like woo and out there and not linear to a lot of professional women's brains.
Right.
Believe me, we get it. But there's something that happens when we change our stories and we change the way that we view ourselves. The outer life starts to match how we think about ourselves on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Definitely.
And so you applied for this job while you were in this program,
Mm-hmm.
and you weren't sure if you wanted to take it or not.
Right. Yep.
Because what came up for you? You applied for the job when you were in the program, and then what was the fear that came up?
It seemed like it was going to be too easy. Like there wasn't going to be
Not hard.
Not hard. Yep. So that was the biggest one, that it just seemed like it was going to be way too easy, and that I wouldn't. Yeah.
And so you're 3 weeks into it now, and what's your experience like so far?
So the first week was interesting because it was basically exactly what I would have written down on paper that I wanted, but I think my nervous system was like, what is happening? Because it just it was so different. And I looked at my journal from one of the first days, and I was like, it's just so interesting, like that people can live their lives in such different ways. And I think something else that's interesting is that there seem to be a lot of people that I've met that view work as like hard, or there's like a lot basically where I was from the beginning. So it sort of seems now that like maybe I was brought here to help them maybe see things in a different way. I don't know yet, but we'll see.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. There's so much that I want to say about that. I'm going to start with the last thing you said, which is we are like when we do follow the path that presents itself and stop forcing, when we surrender in some way. And this is one of our final modules in the program. It's all about your presence and who you're being, right? That your purpose isn't about what you do, right? But it's about who you are. And so I witnessed that, Megan, that you've been brought to that job for a reason, right? And everything that you've learned over these past 6 months that has changed your life and allowed more connection, and for you to feel more confident and more of yourself, and for you to feel more peaceful, all the tools you've learned and the woman you've become, right, are directly going to transfer into this new job, right? Which is such a gift. And I remember when you finished the program, we talk a lot about feminine leadership in the program. And I wonder if you could speak to that. For you, what do you feel like you really learned about what that means, and how you embody that now? So how did the program in some ways enhance your ability to lead as a feminine leader? Do you want to share that with any of the women who may not have any idea what that means?
Yeah, definitely. So that was a big part of the program too. I was managing a team of 3 people, and I hadn't managed before. And some of the situations were a little bit tricky. And I think my manager is awesome, and I got along with her really well, but she definitely has a masculine leadership style. So some of the things I was trying to model just were really not working. And I just felt like it was adding pressure and stress, and I was doing it wrong. So when you introduced feminine leadership qualities, I was like, wow. So like I could be myself and still lead. So I think a huge part of it is like taking like traditional leadership styles are like power over, where I think now I look at it more as like collaborating and working together. Like I don't need to have all the answers. I can learn just as much from other people as they can learn from me. And I think I can be a resource for people to rely on. And I think like resilience is huge. Like as part of it as well. So I think, honestly, I didn't really know anything about feminine leadership before I joined. So that was probably one of the biggest things. And I think I'm still learning. I still look for opportunities to say like, oh, could I think about this differently? Or how do I approach this? And continue to sort of do research on it. But yeah, that's been huge.
Oh, I love that. And you just shared so many amazing things. So for everybody who's listening or watching, I just want to highlight a couple of the things that you said. One thing that I wrote down in big letters was, I can be myself and still lead.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that, I know about you, Megan, and I think anybody who's been listening to us for the past, 20 minutes knows, is you are a kind-hearted, caring, sensitive, empathic person, woman. And most of the women in the program were like that, right? You can think
Definitely.
about your other sisters who went through this program with you. And all of the women that I work with that come to me are highly sensitive, empathic, kind hearted. They want to make this world a better place. They genuinely care. And many of them find themselves in jobs, careers, situations that it feels like they can't succeed and be that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they have to be powerful or dominant or loud or aggressive or bossy or bitchy or whatever it is, right? Um, and so one of the things that I think you just said so beautifully is, whoa, there's all these qualities within me and who I am as a woman. And I don't have to pretend to lead like a man in order to lead. There's a totally different way to do it. none of which were taught. I mean, we're not taught this. We're not
No,
taught this in
definitely not.
grad school, right? You said you didn't know
Nope.
anything about this. Like you didn't know about these principles of feminine leadership. So you just kind of emulate the people who are leading ahead of you, right?
Mhm. Right.
Some in masculine form, some in feminine form. When we talk about masculine and feminine, we're not talking about sex, we're not talking about gender, we're talking about qualities that live inside of each of us. I have masculine qualities and feminine qualities, and so does Megan, and so do you. What we're talking about is, since we do still live in a very patriarchal society, and most corporations are built on that, if not all, then we're taught in some ways that the masculine principle, especially you heard Megan say power over, right? Power over is a more toxic masculine approach to leadership. I'm more powerful, you listen to me. And what Megan just said, she learned that she shifted into is more about power from within and collaboration and resilience and acknowledging that we're not supposed to have all the answers and that we can lead by being curious and being students just as much as we are teachers. So, do you see that? Do you see that? Okay, so I'm curious. Do you see that? Did you see that impacting your job, the previous job,
Hmm.
and then this one? And then I'm wondering also, do you see that impacting your family in any way?
I would say definitely the previous job, like as things had shifted, my relationship, or just, I mean, I think my comfort level leading just evolved
Yeah.
significantly. And I think which made me better as a better leader. In this job, I can definitely see the potential. I think there's certain situations that have even come up where I've like broached the idea of like thinking about it in a different way. I think you can't really say, sometimes if you say feminine leadership, that might shut everyone down. So you have to sort of insert it. And then, yeah, I think definitely in my family too. Again, it's a work in progress, but I think definitely feeling like I don't need to be the perfect mom, and that we can all work together and learn from each other has been huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love that. I don't need to be the perfect mom. And I think that so much of the theme of what I see you've transformed so much these past 6 months. I don't need to be the perfect boss. I don't need to have all the answers. It's okay that I don't have it all figured out. Right. And I just hear a tremendous amount of self compassion
Definitely.
and in a big way, and witnessing what that's doing. That's bringing in more play with your family, more fun, more presence, less pressure, right? It's
Yep.
obviously led to this new job, right, that you're beginning. And um and I wonder if there's anything. So we haven't talked tremendously about kind of the pain you were in. I read a little of your application, but you just said, I'm just struggling. Some days I want to continue working at my corporate job at more senior levels. I want to like keep growing in this
Hmm.
industry. And some days I just want to work 100% from home and be a coach or be a counselor. And sometimes I don't want to do anything and I just want to be a mom full time, right? And
Yep.
so I just want to acknowledge like all of those pieces in you, and I wonder like that confusion, like when you came to us 6 months ago, how was that confusion feeling inside of you?
Um, just so overwhelming. Like I felt like I didn't think it was possible to be all those things. And I think more importantly, I thought I had to have it all figured out, like right then and there. And I think I felt so stuck, so overwhelmed. Like I just couldn't move forward. Super moody, um, yeah, just so much pressure and yeah, it was just impacting everything.
And how long had you been feeling that way before we found each other?
Um, I mean, I definitely had felt it at moments like throughout my life. But like most recently, I went back to work. Went back, it was only 9 weeks old, obviously a huge mistake. But so basically from the time that I went back, so it would have been like 7 or 8 months for this time where it was like the worst that it had been.
Yeah, so it had been that way basically like the whole life of your second daughter in some
Yep.
ways. It had been that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of guilt there too that I like really wasn't able to be there for her because of all this other stuff.
Yeah. So it's like you were beating yourself when you were up, when you were at work, because you didn't want to be there. You want to be at
Mm-hmm.
home. And then I remember this, you were like, and I can't even be present with my kids when I'm at home because I feel like I should be at work. And so it was just this constant, like it was a no-win situation. You weren't present
Yep.
at work, you weren't present at home, and you had no idea what to do about it. Right.
Yep.
So how did you know? Because, you and I got on the phone. We had never
Mhm.
met before. We had never talked before. We had a breakthrough session and you signed up, right? You signed up to change your life that day on the phone. And how did you know it was right for you? Because we don't invite everybody into the program, right? Like I don't like I extended an invitation to you. I knew we could change your life. But how did you know it was right for you?
So, like looking back, like intuition, definitely, right? And I think I did allow myself to trust it. But I think I had felt at that point like I needed to do something. And I had honestly looked at like a few different things, different options of things that I was like exploring. But then when I spoke with you, I just felt like I definitely have like female friends, and like have had different support systems, but I just felt like you got me, or like you got the situation, and just trusted that you would be able to help.
Yeah. And so when you think back on that day 6 months ago almost,
Yep.
and if you were to tell that Megan one thing that you would want her to know, what would you want her to know?
Um, that she's making the right decision. I think that yeah, that she was right to trust you and the program, and herself.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah, that it would all work out.
and herself and
Yep.
herself and herself. So love, your story is so profound. It's so beautiful. I love that we started with just like, I'm more peaceful, I'm more connected. My relationship with my kids are better. I have a new job, right? I'm enjoying it. And and we know where you were before. And so if you were to just impart one final message on, any woman who may be listening to this who's feeling that pull of like, I can't win at work, I can't win at home, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do about it, I feel lost, I feel like, my success is tied in with my work and I don't know what to do. I mean, just where you were before, if you could speak to one woman out there who's still in that place, what would you want her to know? What would you want her to know?
I think the biggest thing is that there's a different way, right? Like it feels like that you need to maybe do it better or that something needs a shift, but there's actually just a completely different way of living. And that Julie can show you how. And that there's so many pieces to the program that work in ways that you maybe don't understand, even when you're going through it. But just trust yourself and just know that there is a different way to live and that you deserve to follow that path.
Oh, that's tremendous. So there is a different way to live, and you deserve to follow that path. And that is so beautiful. And I think that so perfectly encapsulates your journey these past 6 months, Megan, of you have learned how to live in a completely different way. And you now believe that you're worthy and deserve to let life be this good and this easy and this fun. And is it perfect? No, we don't pretend that there's like an end thing where everything's rainbows and unicorns. This is just bullshit. We know that doesn't happen. But, the ultimate goal is to arm you with the tools to be able to always come back to that place of peace, right? And connection to yourself and to others, which you so beautifully embody, Megan.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your journey with us. I am so excited to continue to stay in touch with you to hear about what's next.
Definitely.
And for those of you who are listening, thank you for being here, listening and watching. And if any of Megan's story resonates with you and you want to explore whether or not I can support you, the program, our team can support you to get you to where you want to go, all you have to do is schedule a free breakthrough call with us. It's really that easy. We'll get on the phone, we'll hear about where you are. If we believe we can help you, we'll tell you how we can do that. And if we don't think we're a good fit, we're going to tell you that too, because I only work with amazing women who I know can really be our next success story. And if I don't feel like we can support you to do that, then I'm just going to share the resources with you. We're going to point you in different directions. So if you're called, all you have to do is go to juliesantiago.com/talk, schedule a time, answer a few quick questions, and then you'll get on the phone with our team and we'll have a breakthrough call with you. And if you're a good fit, it is my hope that you become our next success story, just like Megan. And Megan, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing so beautifully and vulnerably. And I'm so excited for what feels like the beginning of a brand new chapter for you.
Thanks, Julie.
All right, everyone, have a great night.